Welcome to the Armored Combat Escalation Service Podcast, Episode 4. Today is Monday, October 27th, 2014, and I am your host, Brandon, also known as Cattra, Kell, and with me today so far is only a few people, but we got Iron Warsmith, Sestos, and Tychron. Hey, everybody.
How's it going?
Pretty good. Yourself?
Been busy, work and with fall kicking in, lots of leaves to clean up.
I can hear you there. So let's do a quick news for the unit. Of course, we have the awards, which quite a bit since the last time we had an episode. So we have Tychron with Trashborn, Medium Silver, Medium Gold competitive version, Assault Bronze competitive version, and Assault Silver competitive version. We have Silly Hats with his Heavy Unobtainium, Tysus with Medium Unobtainium competitive designation, which I believe is the first competitive unobtainium we've given out yet. So congrats on that. He also got a medium bronze competitive. Mecha Kaiju got his light bronze competitive. What is 42 got medium bronze competitive. He also joined the 1000 damage club, medium unobtainium, and heavy silver. Pooh got his medium bronze competitive. Sanctus got light bronze competitive and assault bronze competitive. Michael got his lightning lance. Destructive got heavy silver. And I just realized I forgot to turn off my sounds. So there we go. That should be fixed now. Rubber Weasel got medium silver. Dots joined the 1000 damage club as well as assault unobtainium. Shimmering Sword traded in a god ton of awards. He got a light silver, medium bronze competitive, medium unobtainium, heavy unobtainium, assault unobtainium. His 666 award, 1000 damage club. You guys take this half, I'll take this half, and Operation Project Phoenix. Catcher myself, I got a heavy bronze competitive. Fight Gar got medium silver competitive. Man of Athens got 1000 damage club, heavy unobtainium, and Trashborn. And Bad Backla, I'm gonna mess that name up every single time. Matt got Lucky Sevens, Last Man Standing, Assault Silver, Assault Gold, Heavy Gold, Heavy Unobtainium. So there's been quite a bit of awards handed out the past couple of days. We've also had 2 new members join the ACES faction. We had Sestos, who's with us here today, and Ketsox. Both of them got their ACES tags since our last podcast. So congratulations, guys. And of course, we always have our upcoming events. So Monday night practice is at 8 p.m. Eastern, right after this podcast. Thursday night practice at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. What's the equivalent of that in Eastern? I gotta do some math real quick. I believe that is around 10 or 11 Eastern. I'm not entirely sure. We have our Run Hot and Die 4v4 tournament. Do we have a date yet for the next round?
It is. We were supposed to fight it actually last Friday, but we got contacted by them saying that their organizer wasn't going to be able to be there. So they asked for a reschedule for this Tuesday night at 8. Or, no, I'm sorry, Tuesday at 10. And we agreed to that. Unfortunately, Sinister's email reply that, we accepted the new date didn't go through exactly. And so the rest of their Run Hot or Die group showed up on Friday. None of us were available because we had all been told, no, we're not playing tonight. And so we're kind of in a quandary of if we're going to actually play tomorrow night or if we actually have a forfeit or if we've accidentally forfeited the match. Sinister's running that down, supposedly. And I think we're going to be okay in that we're going to play tomorrow night, but he's supposed to be getting back to us about it tomorrow.
Okay, hopefully we won't have to forfeit, and hopefully it's just we'll be able to get that game played. Of course, we have Merrick Civil War number 4. I believe a match tonight. No, maybe.
Yes, 10 o'clock. We've got it against Merrick Gunfighter Alliance at 10 o'clock Eastern. So
hopefully we'll have people show up for that.
Yep.
Unfortunately, I won't be there because I'll be at work. And of course, we have our ACES tournament we're working on. Always love to hear updates about that. Got anything for us there, Tychron?
We are a bit closer on ironing out a couple of the details, and we're hoping to have something ready to submit to, the leadership for review, hopefully by the end of this week, at the latest.
Excellent. Can't wait to see some of that, and hopefully things will progress on that a little bit more.
Yeah,
So
we've
let's
been.
actually
Oh,
get into. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Dagran.
I was gonna say, to kind of tease it a little bit, we've been trying to structure it so that it's a bit different from everyone, what everyone else has been running lately, but also familiar enough that people aren't going to be sitting there scratching their head over the rules and regulations and trying, their hardest to figure things out. I mean, we want it to be fun and we want it to be challenging, but we don't want, it to be basically a bunch of people rules lawyering over details when it actually comes time to play.
Excellent. All right, so let's actually get into the general talk, and this is where everyone can participate and everything like that. So let's talk about the biggest thing that dropped over the past probably week or two, and that's the resistance package. And for those that don't know, that's the new mech pack that includes the Panther, Enforcer, Grasshopper, and Zeus. So let's begin to say, any of those mechs sound really good to people at all?
The Grasshopper, I think, is going to be a good mech to use. I mean, you've got a 75 ton, I'm sorry, no, 70-ton jumper right there. He's going to bring laser, hard points. I mean, two of the variants have missile hard points in the head. The third variant has a laser hard point in the head, but it's going to be a very interesting build. I think it's going to help combat the Timberwolf a little bit. I don't know if it's going to be a straight matchup for the Timberwolf, but I'm thinking that it's going to be a bit, a heavier version of what the Thunderbolt 5SS and 5SE are right now. It's going to be a bit more versatile, a bit more maneuverable. I think the hit boxes on it are going to be a little bit better because it's not going to be as squat and blocky as the Thunderbolt. But I think the Grasshopper is going to do very well. As we all know, it was a very close poll on PGI's on the Mech Warrior Online website between the Grasshopper and the Black Knight. They were duking it out left and right. All the 2 weeks that the poll was up, they switched places, each one taking the lead, up until the very end, switching back and forth. And I believe the final vote came down to only like maybe 5 or 6 votes separating them.
I'm going to agree. I'm going to say the Grasshopper might be interesting, not just for its loadout, but what it might potentially be able to do. I'm thinking we might actually see our first ever jump jetting zombie mech. So I'm just looking at the 5J here. You got one missile in the head, and you got 2 energy in the CT. And I mean, if you're able to zombie properly, you might be able to even keep a couple of jump jets in your legs, type of thing. So it could be some pretty good potential there. The other one that I'm actually really interested in is the Enforcer. That seems like a really odd choice to me, and it also opens up the possibility of seeing some non-original mechs, because the Enforcer, as we know, only has 2 canon variants, and as such, PGI had to make one up in order to get the 3 variants out there. So that opens up the door to some other mechs. I know we've been teased in the past about the Mauler and stuff like that. So the Mauler, of course, only in the same boat as the Enforcer, with only two canon variants in the timeline. So potentially a third one could open up, and we might be able to see something like that. So that's why I'm really happy to see the Enforcer in here. It's not so much the mech itself, and I mean the mech itself does also look very nice. I'm not sure how much of a role it will play as far as a 50-ton goes, because that role's pretty much very much taken by a couple of mechs now, the Hunchback, the Centurion, as well as I believe we have like the Griffin and stuff like that. Like, just the 50-ton area is very, very filled right now. So I'm not sure what it's going to do to make itself stand out. And of course, the Panther, the light mech, is also very interesting, mainly because it's slow. Is the only thing I'm going to say. So I'm not sure how that's going to feel in a comp section. But I mean, with the right quirks, it might actually be viable. And of course, we also have the last ones we were talking about, the Zeus. What are you guys' overall thoughts on the Zeus?
I'm looking forward to the Zeus. I'm thinking that it's going to be a very good, 80-ton brawler. I mean, it does have that missile hard point in the right arm. Uh, in the stock builds, that's an LRM 15, but I can easily see that getting, switched out instead for SRMs, probably with Artemis. And that left arm has ballistics, so I can easily see that being switched out for Ultra AC5 with an AC5 or two AC5s or a Gauss rifle there. I think it's going to do very well. Uh, I don't know if it's going to be to the same level that the Victor is. The Victor being more maneuverable because the jump jets basically being brought back to where they should be for them. But I think it's going to be a nice brawly mech that, you can take out and, really get in someone's face and just punish them with.
Yeah, the I think the real question is wait and see in how these mechs will play out in their respective area, especially with the competitive scene. Because one of the mechs that I didn't think would make a big splash into the competitive scene, and it kind of has, rolling over into a next topic, is the fact that the Cent AH and the Atlas S are out, and the Atlas S was something I thought that no team would sacrifice a DDC for. But what I'm seeing is in all those matches in which DDCs were sometimes taken before, I'm now seeing Atlas S's. So, I mean, it's hard to say right now what these four new mechs are going to bring, as well as the AH and the Atlas S, definitively. But it's definitely something to look forward to, I think.
I agree. Some of these, I mean, you remarked that you aren't sure about the Panthers' role in terms of the comp scene, but mentioning that the speed is particularly low on it. However, it's only in all three variants. It's only running a standard engine. I'm thinking you throw in an XL on it, you're going to get the speed that you want from it.
Well,
That's gonna.
I
That's,
think. Sorry to interrupt. I
yeah,
think someone already did the calculations where even with the 250 engine on it, you're only going about 110, which I mean that's still fast comparatively speaking to heavies and assaults, but for the light bracket, that's not fast at all. Um, and definitely some of the faster medium mechs would be able to even go faster than it.
it's going to be interesting to see how it works out. I think it might still be viable mainly because in every comp match where we see lights being used, they're almost always getting into the brawl. They're not really staying outside of it. If they are, it's on the very just towards the edge, but they're still pretty involved in it. And I think that's, the Panthers going to excel in that area. It's going to bring, you know, some hard hitting firepower there with the energy slot. It's going to be able to, shield with that left arm a little bit. Uh, it I think it's going to work. I don't know if it's going to be a viable replacement for the Jenner or for the Ember, but I get a feeling that it's going to, at least be something useful in terms of community warfare and for the comp scene. I don't think it's going to be easily dismissed.
Definitely. Staying on the subject a little bit longer. I'm just been quickly looking over the Zeus's, And yeah, I think the Zeus overall, depending on how the hitboxes and stuff like that sit, could be a definitely a very interesting build, especially the 6T, where you do have, like you were saying, those three missile slots in your right arm. Load those up with SRMs or something like that, and the rest of it's just energy. So just go to town.
Yeah, that and that one is interesting as well as the 9S because unlike the 6S where you've got a ballistic, you've got ballistic hard points in that left arm, you've got energy hard points in both the 9S and the 6T. So that's gonna be, a nice little weight saver there when you switch over to those variants, which are going to allow you to bring, more missiles in that right arm instead, and you know keep up the hard hitting firepower that you would want in a brawler.
Definitely. Does anyone else? I know as we got a few more people in here. Have anything about these resistance mechs, or even the, like I was saying, the Centurion AH and the Atlas S before we move on? Oh, it seems Blake Malone has something to say. Go ahead and speak whenever ready.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Blake Malone, also known as Blake 420. And I have to say, the Zeus is an interesting mech that I've happened to been looking forward to seeing in MWO. But unfortunately, I'm a little bummed out that the Cyclops didn't make it, just because, I'm a Lee out deep down.
For sure. Um, Actually, let's speak a little bit about the Centurion AH. Of course, the AH was a mech that we had in closed beta for a little while. And of course, we all know the story behind that. It got changed into the Yen Lo Wang, and of course, it disappeared, and now we finally got it back. Do you think the AH is actually a well-performing mech? Because of course, it's one of the few mechs that doesn't actually have any energy hard points at all. Myself personally, I've been having a blast with the AH with the three machine guns, three SRM6s with Artemis, but I know a lot of people have been hating it, so it's hard to say. So, what are you guys? And also with the Atlas S, I haven't had a chance to really play with the Atlas S a whole lot yet, but I know a lot of people in ACES have. So, what are you guys' thoughts on those two new chassis on the existing mechs that we already had? Go ahead, Tycron.
I kind of like the Centurion AH for you can bring some nice firepower with it, even though it doesn't have those energy points. And I think it's going to be a good mech for a 50-ton comp build because in that type of match, you don't really need to bring a ton of ammo. As at least not to the same level you would have to bring in a pug match where the match can draw out a very long time, and you're going to have to bring in a lot more uh, bring in a lot more firepower for with the ammunition base needed. In a comp matches tend to be, at least in terms of the actual fighting, over very quickly. You might maneuver a little bit and jockey for position at the beginning, but once you get engaged, it seems to resolve itself very quickly. I only once or twice have I personally ever run out of ammunition in a comp match, and that was pretty much with only one person left standing on the opposing team. So I'm thinking that the AH is going to play very well for comp matches. The so I'm wondering what other builds we're going to see for it. As you said, there's been the three SRM6 with Artemis and three machine guns. I've also seen a couple SRM4 builds with ballistics thrown in. So it's definitely got some legs to stand on for being a very nasty little fighter.
Oh, go ahead, Blake 420. You had something to add?
Excuse me, I'm just
No.
as for the AH, I mean, I could see the potential of it being like bringing a lot of firepower, but there's a cost to it. Of course, it has no energy hard points. And me personally, I mean, I can understand the how the firepower would be beneficial for the AH, but unfortunately, I just don't see it because I don't see it being viable to me personally. Because me, I'll tell you this right now, I cannot be in a mech that doesn't have at least one energy hard point. So you'll never see me in a Hugin even, just to put that out there. And but like I said, like you mentioned before, like Takra mentioned before, the AH could be a great addition to competitive scenes because there's like so many different options that you can place in it. But um, but me personally, if it was just for plugin or just doing some random drops like whatever, I wouldn't do it. It's just not viable for me, and it's just so weird just to be in a mech that only has like ballistics and missiles but no energy.
And I think that's the biggest complaint I've been hearing people say is that there's no energy in it. So what happens when they run out of ammo? Um, to that, I got to say maybe plan a little bit better. I know it's not everyone's um, game plan precisely to have more ammo than they might potentially use. So it might not be favorable to some of those people. So I can see the argument there where it might not be someone's game style. Let's move into our next topic, and that's the earnings changes. Of course, we had the revision to the C-bill earnings that got nerfed horribly and then brought back up to a decent amount, I think. This has all been done in accordance to quote unquote role warfare to allow, I think it's mainly lights and mediums making a ton of money. And I've been finding with the heavies and assaults, it's all right money, I guess, but it's nowhere anything you can make with the lights and mediums. If anyone wants to talk about that, just X up or pipe up. Okay, go ahead, Blake 420.
It's actually it's a great addition for the for the you know, it's a great addition. I lost my chain of thought. Sorry. It's a great addition because due to the fact that you actually get rewarded for playing your role because if you're in a light mech, you're basically there for scouting. That's all you're doing because you don't have the firepower to take on anything heavier than another light mech. Because in the real world setting, if you were to go on a Jenner and take on, like, say, a Centurion, if that's unless that Centurion pilot is like green, you're gonna get slaughtered because not only can you use your because you don't have this firepower or the armor to stand up to him. And I mean, this is a game, obviously. So of course you're gonna see some guys just showing off, going in a spider or in a fire starter, just getting 600 mad damage and thinking, yeah, we did it. I did that. But that's not what you're designed to do. That's not what your mech was made for. Your mech if you're a light mech, you're supposed to be scouting. And this opportunity that they presented, like, is very beneficial because you could get rich doing it. I mean, you've already gotten rich just using UAVs, and that's a good thing. But other than that, that wasn't enough. But this little reward bracket that you get for scouting and flanking and all that stuff, especially when you're in a light mech, it, you'll just rack up C bills that way a lot better. As and I really haven't gotten into I really haven't been in a light for a while, so I haven't gotten to try it out. But yeah, when I look at it, it's pretty good. It's a good addition.
And Pooh, you had something?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I like it. I like seeing all the little numbers pop up on the screen and the bonuses and stuff. It's fun. It makes it a little more interesting, and I've definitely noticed a drop in the C bills I make with like assaults. I was playing the Atlas the other day, and it was tough getting a ton of rewards and bonuses and stuff. But I feel that the match winning weight of assaults outweighs the lack of C bills you get. So I think it's working well.
And Tycron?
I like it. I was so tired of running, conquest matches and actually being in a light and doing what you're supposed to do of capping the points and making sure that your team's not getting out capped while your heavier mechs are in the main fight, and then when it comes time at the end of the match, getting little to no reward for doing what you're supposed to be doing. So I like the change. I kind of feel though that it has left the heavier mechs a little out in the cold, that they should be earning a bit more for what they are doing, because they are also doing what they're meant to do. They're either in there brawling or they're supporting with missiles. They're but so I think it's not perfect. It can still get tweaked a little bit more to help it out, but it's far better for everyone than it was prior, because you'd see assaults doing 800 damage and racking up C bills left and right, and the poor spider only doing 180 to 320 damage, and and he'd get nothing for it, even though he told the entire group where the enemy was. You know, he helped win the match by doing an end run and capping their base, or on conquest making sure all the points were capped, so that when it came down to only 3 mechs left, you know his team had the advantage of more cap points, so that they didn't have to go around chasing a squirrel, or if he was on a losing side, he could run around and be the squirrel and still win the match. So I'm liking it. I still think that there's room for improvement, but overall it's a good thing.
Definitely. And have you guys been finding they've been making more C-bills now or less? And I know Pooh stated that in his assaults there he's been making less, but I'm wondering in the lights and stuff like that, have you guys been noticing been making more or less?
I feel like I've been making more regardless of
Oh,
whether I'm in
same.
a. Because I feel like yeah, sorry about that, guys. I feel like I've been making more ever since this thing wasn't implemented. So I feel like, yeah, it's good for all of us.
I definitely feel I'm making more with my lights and my mediums than I was prior. I As I said, I kind of feel that my heavies and my assaults, I'm not making as much as I should be. Uh, that said, I do like that I'm getting rewarded for doing other things besides just putting damage down range. I like the mechanic of if you stay in formation, getting rewarded for that, because it means that people aren't running off lone wolfing it as much anymore. Uh, but yeah, I think at lights and mediums, you're definitely making more. Heavies and assaults, you're a little bit lower than where you were prior. But that's I, I think it's okay right now.
I'll have to agree with that. I've been noticing along those lines of things that, yeah, with my light mix, I make usually about, I don't think I've played a game yet, well, maybe a couple losses every now and then, but anyone that I've won in my light mix, I've been making above 300,000 C-bills, which before just never happened. I would be happy if I made 200,000 before in a light mech, and same with my medium mechs. I've been piloting mediums and lights since this came out, just because one, C-bills, and two, it actually getting rewarded, as we've said here a couple times before, actually getting rewarded for the things that you're supposed to be doing is a nice change. And another thing I've been noticing a lot more as well, with these earnings changes, is that they're a little bit geared more towards brawling as well. The lance formations, the flanking, that sort of stuff. It's all about staying close to your teammates and engaging the enemy in combat. Like, so it's actually very much geared towards brawling, which is an interesting way to try to change game mentality, especially in a game like this. I think it's very interesting. I think overall the earning changes have been very good. Probably still needs a little bit of work to them. Maybe some different ones for the heavies and assaults, but maybe I'm not sure what you would really give them for a role other than I know the biggest complaint has been with like Atlas pilots and stuff like that who have gone in and just soaked up damage and don't really get anything for it. So maybe something to reward the people who are supposed to be tanking for actually tanking might be something to consider. But other than that, I think overall the earning changes are positive all around. Our final topic for tonight would be the quirks, which of course we know are coming out. I believe they said the 4th now. I know it got pushed back. It was supposed to be last patch. But I believe they got pushed back to the next patch after that, which would be, I believe, the 4th. I'm not 100% sure on that. So, I assume all of you guys have seen the proposed quirks or whatever, or kind of like the hypothetical / ones that are somewhat set in stone. I'm not too sure about any of that, because they could still change between when this is released and when the quirks are actually released. So I'm not going to mention any specifics, but what are your overall thoughts of the quirk system? Go ahead, Pooh.
I think it's going to be great. I'm very excited for them. To be rewarded for using the equipment that is like stock on the mech, I think is cool, and it will make mechs fit more specific roles instead of just being able to kind of, do whatever. I think it'll give more purpose to the different variants, and maybe make you want to keep ones that you wouldn't have wanted to keep before, or use ones that you find fun but aren't as effective with the current game.
Go ahead, Tigron.
I think it's a nice change. I'm looking forward to seeing what comes down the pipe for it, for especially for each mech. I know there's been a lot of complaints about people saying, well, they should be more general quirks. For example, the Hunchback 4G has been one of the big targets because that in the hunch, that right torso, rather than a general ballistic quirk, it's a quirk specific to the AC-20. Now, personally, I like that. I think it's a nice throwback to the stock build of the mech and what the canon lore is for that mech of having that AC-20. But there's been a lot of people, voicing complaints about, that it should be a general ballistics because their 4G build uh, is like three AC2s in that hunch, or two AC5s, or two UAC5s in that hunch instead of the AC20, and that's like they're saying that they're not going to get the benefit, and it's like, well, you're not getting the benefit as it is now for the ballistics anyway, so you're at the same, with the change, you're still in the same point, but you're getting, better quirks for the armor and for the internals. You're also getting better quirks for the energy on it. So, it's a trade-off. Yeah, you can run something different. You might not get, the full benefit of having, the suggested quirk there, but you're still getting something better than what you are right now.
I agree. I think the quirk should be something very interesting. I believe. Go ahead, Blake 420.
The thing about the quirks is that yeah, it's pretty cool, but I say I give it like another week, like until next patch or the patch after, just to see what's up, because I don't want to jump to any conclusions or nothing because everything could be different. Like you could have quirks for the Hunchback that says either it'll carry two AC10s or not AC10s, AC2s or an AC10 or 20 or whatever, but then it could change like out of nowhere. So I'd rather just wait until patch just to see what's up. And that's not just for the Hunchback. That could be for Locust as well, or any spec in particular.
Go ahead, Tigron.
Another change that I saw, and they kind of put this in at the end, was the suggested quirk for mechs like the Jester, where because it comes stock with jump jets, it's not going to get as many quirks as a mech that doesn't have jump jets. And they kind of hinted that this was going to be similar to mechs that come stock with ECM. So your Raven, your Spider, your Atlas DDC, is potentially not going to have as many quirks as other variants of it are. So the Atlas D could actually be, have three different quirks that are, are weapon quirks, while the Atlas DDC might only have two weapon quirks to it. And they might not be ones you necessarily like, but it's a trade off because you have the potential to carry that ECM there that, really is in and of itself a big quirk, that is available to you even now. So I know there's been people saying, well, that doesn't matter, that, these shouldn't be penalized for it. And I don't see it as a penalty. I think it's a nice way to balance it of making the other variants that don't have that, ECM ability, or they don't have that jump jet ability, strengthening them up so that, you actually have to sit down and think, okay, do I take the ECM, or do I take something that's going to have the quirks that I can put out a lot more damage or better damage than, and and trade it off? Do I take that risk of not needing the ECM? Do I count on teammates to bring the ECM instead? It's it definitely makes you think more about, what you're going to bring and how you're going to use it.
Definitely. My biggest thing about the quirks, though, is I wonder how it's going to kind of affect the competitive scene, mainly because we're all these chassis that were once not as viable as others, all of a sudden might become as valuable as others. So I'm wondering if you might see a little bit more of a mix-up in the competitive line of things. Go ahead, Pooh.
I totally agree with that. I was just thinking about that. I think it's gonna be quite hilarious to see what happens to the meta and that sort of thing. I'm hoping some weird mechs become really powerful, which would be hilarious. Like
We, we
Vindicators are the new jump sniping Victor for some reason, or something like that.
we all know with the implementation of quirks that the Locust is going to just wreck face of everyone. Everyone's going to be taking Locust. It's going to be chaos and pandemonium. It's going to be a plague upon all our houses. And
You
it
heard
would
it
be
here
awesome.
first, folks. You heard it here, folks. Locust is confirmed for being OP. PGI, please pre-nerf the Locust. But yeah, no, I think the
we want our
quirks
coffin. We don't want a brick house. We want our coffin.
I definitely think quirks is going to be a big boost. I think overall the past couple, from what I've been hearing, like the past couple of things they wanted to implement. So we have like the C-build changes, which I think is a positive. We have the quirks coming, which I believe is going to be nothing but positive. Of course, it is the internet, and therefore we have our form warriors, in which PGI has committed the biggest sin of them all. But yeah, I think the quirks could be nothing but good. I'm seeing an actual incentive for role warfare with the C-bill earnings. I guess the next big hurdle for us to wait and hear a little bit more about, and maybe see a little bit more about, is going to be a combination of maps as well as community warfare. And from the way they're putting out dev blog after dev blog about community warfare, that might actually be reality fairly soon. So hopefully we'll see and hear a little bit more about that.
I'm definitely liking where the game looks to be going. I think the changes that happened are positive and will continue to be.
Yeah, it's definitely a major improvement for the game each time they're going in and making these, switches. It's no longer feeling like a stuttering, hop every time, they patch something and, you know rework a system. There now feels like there actually is a game plan, set out, that there is an end goal that is viable and in sight, and that everyone's benefiting for, the changes that are coming. Uh, I I'm looking forward to seeing how community warfare is. I'm no longer kind of, being uh, as wary of it as I was when they initially, started talking about it earlier in the summer. I think it could actually work out. It's not going to be this big mess that everyone's going to be banging their head against a wall, going, "Why, God? Why did you do this?" But uh, I'm looking forward to everything. I like PGI. I like where they're taking things. I kind of wish they would, not listen to the forum wars as much. I like that they listen. I like that they do take feedback and they do take criticism. But I kind of wish that they would stick to their guns a little bit more when, people start raising all heck over, the most minor of details. But for the most part, I'm I'm anticipating a very good game coming forward now.
I'll have to agree. And I think that's a really good place to wrap this podcast up for the week. Is there any final statements or anything like that from anyone?
I'd like to go as a suggestion for next week. I'd like to come back to the Atlas, the new variant, the S, because I haven't had a chance to play it. I know you said, Cattra, that you haven't had a chance to play it. I've had
It's
a chance.
cray.
Yeah, and I think I've seen a couple out there, but I definitely would like to come back to them next week and talk about them once we've had a chance to go over them.
I agree. Maybe we might have to have a small talk about the Atlas S versus the DDC, because that's one of the biggest things I'm more curious about right now, because I've even seen very reputable members of the competitive scene swear on the Atlas S over the DDC, and for me it's hard to fathom that, because in my mind it's rooted so hard that ECM is what you need, and just to have it being trumped by something that doesn't have ECM, hard to say. So I think that might be a good discussion to have on the next episode. Any more closing statements?
I'm sad there's another mech pack coming out.
Is your wallet hurting?
Yeah, I wish they would do some sort of like, I don't know. I've played several other free-to-play games where you can pay either a fixed amount and just get things as they come out, or you can buy some sort of subscription that makes the real money things purchasable with fake money or something like that. I don't know.
Well, you're lucky, Pooh. I just had a funeral for my wallet yesterday.
I see. Definitely as someone who comes from an economic background, I do see the benefits in PGI's pack system compared to some of the other free-to-play models. That being said, I do also agree that there are some other models that might be more beneficial. The subscription model, it's a little bit outdated, especially where you pay the subscription, you get the stuff for free for a period of time. That works to a point, but then once you hit that point, it no longer becomes of any value to the company, because you actually end up losing more money than gaining money. So it's hard to say with something like that. Would there be other practices that I would do? Yeah, especially looking at the free-to-play market, I would say yes. But I think the mech packs where you purchase the mech pack, you don't get it delivered until a little bit later. So more or less it's more like a pre-order type thing.
Exactly.
I think that's a decent system to go on, as far as an economic standpoint, and as far as making money for the company and stuff like that. From a business standpoint, it's a very good way of doing it. From a consumer standpoint, I could see where it'd be a toss-up, because people, after so many packages, people do get worn out and they do get tired of that sort of mentality, especially right now where we got 3 of them you can still purchase.
Exactly.
So
it's
just more piling on.
Yeah, it does
exactly.
feel like
and
it
people
got
just
rushed
look at
out.
and people look at the top pricing. So you got $500, roughly $500 worth of clan mechs plus this new $80 package. Like, people are going to look at that and be like, wow, this is an expensive game to get into.
Exactly.
And that's where it gets,
I've noticed. I play Smite as one of the other MOBAs I play, and you pay a fixed price, and you get all of the gods, which are the characters that are coming out, and you get any new ones that come out. But then I've noticed that gives me incentive to want to spend real money on, say skins and stuff like that, because the company is giving me the option to play so many things, for a lower price. It makes me want to spend money on other things that I wouldn't necessarily have bought before.
Oh, and I completely agree. And I think the pricing model perhaps on the skins and paint for battle mechs might need to come down a little bit in order to incentivize that. But
Like I would
One of the
never.
things I've been noticing, which I've never really done before up until now, was the one-shot, one-use paints and skins. I've been finding that's a lot better for your money instead of the permanent ones, especially if you don't plan on changing your paint and that sort of stuff.
Exactly. Yeah, I just think if I didn't have to buy all these mech bundles all the time, I would probably buy more paint colors, and because right now I don't really want to buy paint colors because I've spent so much money on mechs, you know.
Yeah, no, I completely understand where you're coming from. I haven't bought paint, not so much colors. I bought a couple colors when they go on 50%, but the actual mech skins, I've never really bought them until I decided to try out the one-shot ones, and it's like, man, this is only 75 MC. I don't mind spending that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this package does feel, a little bit on top of everything else. Kind of a bit overwhelming. We of having just have the Clan Invasion pack come out, then now just the announcement of Clan Wave 2 coming out, then this new IS Resistance pack, where you're not getting IS Resist, you're not going to be even getting them until pretty much the end of the year. So it feels like a bit much. I know why that they brought it out this way, because a lot of people were saying, I don't want more clan mechs. I want my inner sphere mechs,
And they
but
want their King Crab as well.
yeah, I want my King
Yeah.
Crab. But to that I say, hey, PGI, how about all of us out here that have bought the top tier of all the packs? Can we get something extra as well? We've been very loyal. Yeah, you've rewarded us here and there with this new Centurion, this new Atlas, and now with this King Crab. But how about something really special? It doesn't have to be a gold plated Atlas.
I was gonna say, can we
That'd
just
be
get a gold paint bucket and paint one of our mechs gold?
Yeah, I mean
Yeah.
maybe have something that's not a mech. Maybe you get a permanent like
Like a
15%
special skin,
discount.
maybe?
Yeah. Maybe a 15% discount to all future in-game purchases or something. For a year, because you've purchased the top tier of these packages since the beginning.
That would be awesome.
I mean,
Well, they do throw gobs of premium time on most of
Yes.
those things.
Yes, they do.
I
Which
have like a year.
yeah, when I activated my premium time earlier this year, I had about a year's saved up from Founders. So I don't fault them there for giving us, premium time and giving us little like cockpit items. But you do get those,
But yeah,
regardless
I
of
get what you're
tier-
saying. I want something awesome.
of what level you purchase. So I kind of want something, from PGI saying, look, these guys have been, the legendary founders. They've been the overlords. They've been, the heads of the clan mechs. Yeah, we might not have purchased the gold mech for the clan invasion, because that might have been a bridge a little too far for most of us. But these guys have been supporting the game, from day one, every step of the way. It'd be nice to give them a little extra recognition, but I don't know. Maybe that's coming. Maybe it's not. They tend to add things to these packages as they go along. I see, especially with the Clan Invasion pack. I mean, when it first went on sale, all that was listed for the extra benefit were the premium time and the mech bay, and then suddenly there's the social rewards, the extra cockpit items, this war, all these extra little things, the war horns, all these little things that now we're like, these are great. Why, we have to get more of these now. And PGI has a nice way of slipping them in after the packages go up initially. Right now we're looking at faction colors and faction camos coming for the packages, so they could easily slip something extra in that we are not yet aware of.
Definitely. I don't want to hurry people or anything like that because I love conversation, but we're going a little bit over, so I'm just going to wrap things up real quick here. Maybe this is something we could potentially come back next week again as well and speak more about. So, this has been the Armored Combat Escalation Service podcast. This has been your host, Brandon, also known as Cattra, Kell. And with me today has been Pooh. Blake Malone, also known as Blake420, MechWarrior21, Cestos, and Tycron. And until next time, Mech Warriors.